Good to see you. Looking forward to hearing you talk.
Welcome to our church on this cloudy winter morning. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Francis Adewale, and I'll tell you a bit more about him later in our service. I also want to especially welcome those of you who are here for the first time or returning after an absence, as well as those of you who come often. Plus, those of you who are joining us from afar on our website. We're glad to have each of you with us, and we appreciate your unique background, beliefs, and lifestyle. Please join us after the service for coffee and conversation. Now, take a moment to meet and greet those around you. Please especially welcome those who are new to our church. We now turn from the informal greeting of each other to the formal beginning of our service as we light our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, the symbol of our unity and solidarity, of our openness and inclusion, of our community and individual uniqueness. May this small flame be an offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world, and a beacon of hope to those in need. and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a shadow of healthy doubt where it has been found. For Unitarian Universalists down through the ages, social justice has been an important commitment of our churches and our individual members. 5 of our 7 principles speak directly to issues of justice. Our first, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Our second, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Our third, acceptance of one another. Our sixth, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And our seventh, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. In his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, Nelson Mandela gives us another perspective on justice. He says, "No one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but how it treats its lowest."
Please stand as you're willing and able for our first in-service hymn, number 112, Do You Hear? You can either access the screen or, if you prefer, your gray hymnal. Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand, through the sky, through the land? Do you hear, in the heights on the plain, in the vale on the main, in the sun, in the rain? Do you hear, through the roar, through the rush, through the throng, through the crush? Do you hear in the hush of your soul, of your soul? Hear the cry, fear won't still. Hear the heart's call to will. Hear a sigh, startling thrill in your soul, in your soul. From the place where you stand to the outermost strand, do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear, all the dreams, all the tears, all the sighs, all the prayers? They are yours, mine, and theirs. Do you hear,
Good morning. I would like to invite our young and our young at heart forward for our time for all ages. So the title of the sermon this morning is It Takes a Community. And there is nothing in this world that speaks to community for me more than cooking together. So my story this morning is reflective of that. Callaloo is a thick green soup. It's eaten in places like Jamaica and Trinidad, where people say that learning to make callaloo soup is a little like learning to live. The soup goes way back in time to the days when the ports of Trinidad were full of tall sailing ships. The local Carib and Arawak people weren't sure what to make of them. Some had sailed from Britain, and others were from France and Spain. The new arrivals included people from China and India, Ghana, and Mali. They came from Syria, Portugal, and Venezuela too. Each of the groups arrived on the shores of Trinidad with their own language and songs, their own clothing and food, different from each other and from people who'd lived on the island forever. People are people. We're most comfortable with what we know. So even though Trinidad is not a very big place, people stuck closest to their own kind. The Arawaks and Caribs retreated to the forests. The Chinese avoided the French, who avoided the Indians, who mixed as little as possible with the Venezuelans, and so on down the line. Trinidad was a divided nation. Things might well have stayed that way, but one rainy season, the hurricane trail took a turn toward Trinidad. The storm raged like a beast trampling over the island, tossing and turning everything up. When the beast finally moved on, all of Trinidad was a terrible mess. Crops were drowned, houses flattened, trees uprooted, and boats smashed to smithereens. The people who survived were scared and hungry. You know how it can be when there are shortages. The ugly in us can come out. Sure enough, people grew greedy. It was hard for them to find food, and when they did, they hoarded it for themselves and their own kind. Worry, anger, and jealousy hung over the island like a great black cloud, and the island was more divided than ever. It might well have stayed that way, but an elderly woman happened to notice something glinting beneath the ruins of a house. What was it? She was curious. She began to pull away the boards and rubble. They were heavy, and she had to work hard. Finally, there it was, a great, huge cooking pot. The woman looked at it. She thought. As she began to hatch a plan, a big smile came over her face. She lit a fire with some of the boards and rubble. She filled her pot with water, added some salt, and began to stir and chant. It may be a little bland, but the soup I'm cooking is for every child, woman, and man. Her chanting was heard far and wide. It may be a little bland, but the soup I'm cooking is for every child, woman, and man. No one wanted soup that was bland. Those who heard hurried home to search through their store of goods. A Carib family arrived in the square with sweet cocoa plums and starchy cocoa yams. The woman smiled as they peeled and then plunked them into the pot. An Arawak family followed suit with fine bud peppers and slices of sweet squash. A family from Mali brought bunches of green okra pods that had survived the storm. A British family delivered salt pork. An Indian family had found coconuts knocked to the ground. They cracked them open and poured the sweet milk and shavings into the soup. Syrians added cumin, while the Spaniards and French came with garlic, onions, and thyme. A Chinese family contributed the big green leaves of dasheen. They tore the leaves into strips that gave the soup its beautiful deep green color. Soon, the aroma coming from the pot caused people to hum and smile. The smart woman stirred. Her soup was almost finished. She paused for a few minutes, curious about the clamor of children she could hear down the beach. A short time later, a big giggling mixed group arrived. They were all colors and shapes and sizes. They'd been too busy helping one another capture crabs to pay attention to cultural differences. They had buckets full of rich-tasting blue crabs to add to the soup. The smart woman stirred. At last, she announced, the first ever callaloo. The old woman ladled out scoop after scoop of the mysterious mixed flavor soup into people's bowls and calabashes and cups. It was delicious and hearty. Once their bellies were full, they began to talk and tell stories, and they began to sing. After a while, some of them looked up. They saw that the big black cloud that had been hanging over Trinidad had parted. The skies had opened up, and the sun was shining again. The cultural divisions on the island of Trinidad were breaking down. It's said that the children who made the first ever callaloo soup continued to mix and mingle. It is said that their children were the callaloo children, children who knew how to get along with people of all cultures, colors, shapes, and sizes. I say the world needs more callaloo soup and more callaloo children. I invite you to sing with me now, hymn number 413, Go Now in Peace.
We will now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and our mission to the larger world. Each time we gather as a congregation, there are always those who are with us in our minds and our hearts, and who we want to wrap in our love and care. Let us share a moment in silence, embracing those who are here in our hearts this morning. You are welcome to say their names aloud as you are willing. Malia. Annie. Those named aloud, and those remembered in the silence, and all those who are suffering elsewhere in our world this hour, we hold in our community of compassion. Now take a moment to get comfortable. Close your eyes if you wish, and take several deep breaths. The words to lead us into meditation this morning are taken from the Book of Joy by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. The Archbishop said that he often likes to quote one of his heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who in turn was quoting one of his heroes, an abolitionist minister named Theodore Parker, who wrote, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." Many of us have heard this quote before, but it is inspiring to know that it originated with one of our own Unitarian ministers, Theodore Parker, who was passionate for justice. Think about how this may apply to our lives and to our times. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Reading this morning is taken from the book of Matthew, chapter 25, verses 35 to 40 in the Christian Scriptures. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see thee hungry and feed thee, or thirsty and give thee drink? And when did we see thee a stranger and welcome thee, or naked and clothe thee? And when did we see thee sick or in prison and visit thee? And the king will answer them, truly, I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brethren, you did it to me.
A secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the bad for king composing. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof. Her beauty in the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to the kitchen chair. She broke your throne, she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Maybe I've been here before. I've seen this room and I've walked this floor. I used to live long before I knew you. And I see your flag on the marble launch, and love is not a victory march. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Maybe there's a God above, and all I've ever learned from love is how to shoot somebody who outdrew you. And it's not a cry you can hear at night. It's not somebody who's seen the light. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Once again, it was so beautiful. Our guest speaker this morning is Francis Adewale, who was born in Nigeria and obtained a law degree from the law school in Lagos. He eventually made his way to the United States, where he is the primary public defender for the Spokane Community Court. The court is a therapeutic court and works to provide services for clients in lieu of jail time. Francis often states that the Declaration of Independence inspired him to work on behalf of the poor and marginalized. He serves on the board of Access to Justice and the statewide Reentry Council. He also provides a free legal clinic at Spokane Dream Center on Saturdays, starting at 10:30 in the morning, and stays until the last client leaves. Francis, thank you for being a model for us of working for justice. We are delighted to welcome you to our pulpit.
Thank you. You all are just too kind. What a wonderful church. I am so blessed to be here. When I received the invitation, I said this the other time. First of all, Sophia, you took me to the black church. I feel like jumping off. And shouting hallelujah. Thank you. Thank you. You did it again, and that was good. Really, when I got the invitation, there's a colleague of mine in the office that got married in this church about 15 years ago. He said, "Oh my God, you're going to flow in love." He said, if there is anything UU is known for, it's love. They're going to love on you. You cannot. And everything he said, I've confirmed. And I'm so blessed to be here tonight. And that kind of puts me in a very difficult situation because I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. You already, everything. Do I want to speak about love? This is definition of love. This is what UU is all about. I can point to many people in this church. Rick Eichstad is on the board, advisory board of community courts. You know, the very first female volunteer we have in community court, she's sitting right there. Can you wave to? Thank you. That is the very first, and she still remember. I think we have one now. She was the first female volunteer we have in community court. But you know this, and she came because some years ago, Judge Logan came to speak in this church, and she had a call, and she came. So there is nothing I want to tell you that you already don't know. So I feel like, what can I say? Do I tell you that, we need to create a more diverse community? Virtually everyone here makes it possible for me to live in Spokane and be a public defender in Spokane. This church has worked to expand the boundaries for people of color, for LGBT community to be able to have a voice in our city and in our region. So forever, all I can say is thank you. Thank you for being an oasis of love, especially given what is going on in our nation, especially in our nation's capital. Being an oasis of love in the midst of Twitter hatred is so important. And we appreciate that, and we love you for what you do. So I then turn out so there's nothing I want to say really that can really make you change what you don't already know. So I decided, let me talk about why I do what I do. Let me tell you my why. I would tell you my why. My why, I've been a public defender for close to maybe 16 to 17 years now. I've been for 11 years of those 16 to 17 years, 15 years, give or take. For 11 years, I was working to get people out of jail. And I love my job. I do it to the best of my ability. But here is the story. I get people out of jail on Monday, and they are back on Friday. I get them out of jail maybe the last 2 weeks. And when they are not in jail, they are the ER. Now, the kind of client I represent, they are not like a client that Rick used to represent when he was a felony public defender. The kind of client I represent are people that were accused of, I'm sure many of you are thinking, oh, maybe murderers or violent offenders. No, they are accused of sleeping under the bridge, of crossing the street when they should have used the crosswalk, pedestrian interference. And they guess this, they are accused of theft. Now, the kind of theft we are talking about is not the guy that stole $6,000 from grandma. This is the theft where my client go to the 7-Eleven downtown, so hungry, he pick up an apple that costs 45 cents, and try to eat as much of it because he knows he's going to go to jail that day. So he tried to eat as much of it as possible, and he was ready. When the officer come, take me. He was hungry. Stole 45-cent apple. Now, you and I, all of us in this room, pays to keep him in jail. Guess how much it costs per day? $130 per day. 45-cent apple, $145 per day. And some of them spend maybe in a year close to 3 to 4 months in jail. Now, does that make sense? It wasn't making sense. After you have been doing this over and over again, by the 11th year, I've had it. Especially given what happened about, let's say, 4 or 5 years ago. So I, along with others in my church, every Christmas time, we go to House of Charity. How many people here knows the House of Charity? That is the homeless shelter in downtown Spokane. So we take a couple of clothes and food, and we take it down there, and we give clothes and food and socks to people. Just for us to say, we have done our part for the year. That's good enough. The kind of church I come from, you actually do that. You show that you love by just doing it once a year. But then, something happened that particular Christmas that changed me, that gave me my why. As we walk into the House of Charity, when you enter the House of Charity, on your left hand is the chapel. And in front of the chapel, on that day, there was a signpost. There was a notice board where they pinned a one-page list of names. It was the names of the homeless people that died that year. There are between 7 to 8 people on that list that year. And as I'm looking at the names, about 5 of them I have personally represented. So I look at myself. I was more or less an undertaker. I was just waiting for these people to die. Now, like I said, by that time I've been practicing as a public defender in Spokane for 11 years. The grandchildren that I was representing then, I used to represent their grandparents. I'd represent their parents. I was on to the 3rd generation, doing the same thing over and over again, doing my dandiest best, fighting for them to get them out of jail. And then they go out of jail, they go back under the bridge, they spend 2 weeks or a week at the 2 weeks at the maximum, a week at best, and they are back in jail. When they are not in jail, they are the emergency room at Sacred Heart. That was the life of my client. But there is a particular name that I saw on that day that changed me. And I look, that person, I particularly know him because about 2 weeks before, he had told me that he suffered from Korsakoff syndrome. That's an alcohol-induced dementia. And he had told me about his problem. Now, remember, this was pre-Obamacare days, where the primary health care physician that my clients know is at the ER because they cannot afford to to pay for insurance. So at the end of the day, he told me that this is what is going on. And how did he die? His story, like I have 3 other people that died like him. 2 drunk, slept under the bridge, froze to death. In the greatest nation on earth. In the greatest nation on earth. The nation that has the biggest and the strongest armaments that this world has ever known. We have more nuclear warheads than any other nation. Than 70 other nations put together. And those warheads cost billions and trillions. And people are freezing to death under the bridge of Spokane. That was why I came back to the office on Monday. I was like, I've had enough. I've had it. So I went straight to my boss, Kathy Knox. Many people here know her. I told her, I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. This is not what I signed up for. I can't continue to have people die this way. So she said, Francis, please don't do this. We are working on a program. I just don't want you to quit now. Just bear with me. We're working on a program that can address some of this problem. So along with others, we started working on community court. The first thing we did was to take the court away from the courthouse. When you go to the courthouse, there is the superior court in front, there is the municipal court at the annex, there is jail at the back. When my clients say they are going to court, they are going to jail. They never show up on their own. The only time they ever show up for court is when they are in chains and they are brought to the courtroom. Because they don't trust this criminal justice system. They believe it's geared towards locking them up so that you and I will not see them. We take away their humanity. What do we get? You want animals, you will get animals. So when the officer comes, they act out. They back. Because the only thing they know is that you are trying to exile them. Our criminal justice system knows how to exile people. Lock them away so we won't have to see them as we drive back to work and back home. I don't want to see those people. We've actually had people write letters to City Hall and said, what are you doing about those people? So that is what is going on. And then when we started putting the things together, the court together, we discovered that the problem we are dealing with when people are spending so many months in jail, and the jail is overcrowded, the ER, the emergency room, is also having the same problem. Because when they are not with us, they are with them. They are the ER. They are waiting to be treated for that diseases and afflictions that you and I will never, ever have. Why? because we are in the lower, middle, or upper middle class. The diseases that will kill an homeless man will never come near you or your children, because those diseases are subject to vagaries of the environment, and people take advantage of them. We never knew that the 35% of the homeless population that we attend to in community court will be women. I never in my life could have ever imagined it, that so many women will be homeless in Spokane, until we discover that they are victims of horrendous crimes. Now, this is not a doom and gloom message, because in the last 4 years, thanks to the work of some of the people in this room, I see some of them fighting for justice. I can tell you that in the last 4 years, we have been able to have 426 graduated from community court, many of whom have committed no offense since their graduation. In the coolest part of this story, one of them had been homeless for 15 years, got housed, got married to his partner, and Judge Logan did the wedding. The two guys were smiling. I was like, this is so cool. You have to remember that about 2 years before, everything was set against him. Everybody gave up on him. For more than 15 years, he has serious mental health. We sent him to treatment. He completed treatment. He came back, met his partner when he went to Special Olympics. It was so cool. I don't want to cry. And people say they should not marry. Can you imagine? Now, we have helped over 200 participants obtain housing and case management assistance. So what we did is we put service providers in one room, we put the court in the other room. So when people come in, they can easily access the service providers. So we also educate the police officers. When you find somebody that is sleeping under the bridge, you don't have to give them a ticket. Just give them our flyer, send them to community court. We're going to try to get them help. 200 participants obtain housing. Over 10,000 lunches have been provided to court participants. We are the primary place on Monday where people get food in downtown. The Lions Club distributed over 300 pairs of reading glasses, scheduled 150 eye exams to obtain prescription glasses. Over 3,411 community service hours have been completed. 75 participants have signed up for payee services. 60 participants have been referred to dental emergencies and needing treatment program, DENT. 3,200 individuals with no criminal charges were able to come to court on their own without a ticket and get all the help they needed. That has happened in the last 4 years. So this year we started a new community court. We took it away from downtown. We put it in Northeast Community Center. I met some of the neighborhood council members here, and they were telling me, oh, I remember you when you came to talk to us. Because it's a problem-solving court. We have to talk to the community. What is the problem going in the community? The problem in the Northeast is different from the problem in the downtown. The Northeast community participants, they show up for their appointments. The downtown people don't show up. You have to literally go and pick them and take them to classes. That is where we need you. That is where we need you. As volunteers, we need you to be there to get people from one room to the other. We have changed the way we do volunteering now. Because it's no longer we just need you to sit at a table and talk to people. People want to be heard. They just want people that will listen to them. People that they can onboard into. They just wanted to. That guy that got married, the thing he said, Francis, the coolest thing about you is that you can just listen to me. I can ramble on and on. You are just there to take it. But that's what people are looking for. They want to be heard. They want to be treated as humans. The circle of humanity should be extended to them. And how am I doing with time? Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, I have 5 minutes, so I will go to my call to action for you. Like I said, I really don't have much I can ask you to do, but this one thing I want to encourage you. The Christian liturgy in Matthew chapter 22, verse 34 to 40, in addition to what Susan read to us, gave us the Great Commandment. The Great Commandment talk about loving God and loving your neighbor. Now, your neighbor, I am happy to tell you, your neighbor is not the guy that bought the new house next to you. Your neighbor is that homeless participant in community court. It's your neighbor. You have to love that homeless guy as you love yourself. And Jesus, if only we Christians can just live by the word of Christ, the world will be a better place. When we love those neighbors, how do we show love to them? When we learn to esteem and respect every human for being human. When we value people because of what they are, not because of what they do. My clients, sometimes you look at them, they are not lovable. They use drugs, they use crack. They do things that really defile the norm. But loving our neighbors means we respect their humanity. After all, they are human beings and not human doings. Let me say that again. Every one of us here, we are human beings, not human doings. You are not human beings because of what you did, but because of who you are. There is an essential humanness in each and every one of us. Until we go beyond and find that humanness in each and every one of us, we will continue to have the kind of society where we unleash terror and hatred on a segment of our population because we have taken away their humanity. We learn to bypass what people do in order to value them. That's Jesus' definition of love. It's selfless. Now, there's something that we give to people in community because we don't have the resources to be able to meet every need. What we give is hope. Hope never disappoints. Let me say that again. Hope never disappoints. Because as long as people look up with hope, there is life. So hope is what I'm asking you to come and give to people in community court. On Monday morning at 10 a.m. at the downtown library, we are there. On Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. at the Northeast Community Center, we are there. We need more people. We need you to be there at the table, just to sit down and talk to people. Just to sit down and talk to that. You know that guy that got married? His parents disowned him because of his sexual orientation. The first time I called his dad in Texas, his dad said, I don't want to have anything to do with him. By the time we finished and he graduated, I called the dad back because I had been giving update to his dad. His dad said, will he ever forgive me? Will he ever forgive me? Francis, will he ever forgive me? Now, Jesus Christ gave the Lord's Prayer to his disciple. In that Lord's Prayer, the first part of the Lord's Prayer is talking about, worship God, the Lord your God, and all of that. But the first part that deals with humanity, asking for something, is about give and forgive. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us. That's all we need to give to our fellow human beings. That gentleman forgave his dad, and they reconciled. He gave. He should have, for 15 years, his dad disowned him. But he forgave. He forgave his dad. And he gave love to his dad. That's what we can do. That's all I'm asking us to do this morning. I need you to be there, to be able to extend that 7 principles back to those people waiting there. That's 7 principles of love, of inclusion. Just being there to let people know that you care. That's all I'm asking. And you don't have to come and volunteer. Just come and visit. Just come and shake hand and give somebody a hug. If you can only come once a year, that's okay. But I need you to be there. I need you church to be there. Because you are the last frontier for peace in our nation. Because all we are getting is hatred. And if we don't stand up for love and peace, I don't know where we are going to go. So I'm asking you to please find time on Monday or Tuesday, even if it's just to write a letter to that person and say, I want to let you know there is hope. Hope never disappoints. I thank you for what you do, and I thank you for recognizing the humanity in each and every one of us. And I appreciate this church. I've had a lot of meetings in this building talking about race and all kind of things. You make your facility available. You make your members available. Every time you come to UU Church, let's come and... Why? It's because this is all we have. So don't give up your labor of love. We appreciate you and we love you. And I hope that you will continue to be who you are. Thank you.
Please stand as you are willing and able and join me in singing hymn number 121, We'll Build a Land.
Land.
Before we close, I want to mention that Francis brought with him some copies of a book he's written, Listening and Questioning, Leadership Lessons from the Person and Humanity of Christ. Unfortunately, people at the first service already bought all of them. They're $5 a piece, but we are going to have some more here over the next couple weeks. So just know that will become available. Our closing words were written by Dorothy Day, co-founder of the Catholic Worker Movement and a tireless activist for peace, who is now being considered for sainthood by the Catholic Church. Commitment. People say, what is the sense of our small effort? They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread out in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do. Amen, blessed be, salam alaikum, and shalom.